Hello, Sault Ste. Marie. Welcome to our live federal election coverage. Polls have now closed in most areas across the country. We are currently awaiting official results to start to come in, and we'll have updates throughout the evening. Tonight, we have Village Media reporters throughout the city where each of our local candidates are stationed. To kick off our tonight's coverage, let's check in now with reporter Donna Hopper, who is at Conservative candidate Brian Hayes' campaign office.
Mine was huge this afternoon.
Thanks, Jasmine. Supporters are in high spirits here at incumbent Brian Hayes' campaign office as the 2015 federal election draws to a close. Hayes was first elected to Parliament representing the Conservative Party in 2011, defeating NDP candidate Tony Martin. Seeking to serve the riding of Sault Ste. Marie for a second term, Hayes was previously a member of the House of Commons Standing Committee for Public Accounts and the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs. He also sat as the chair of the National Steel Caucus and the National Border Caucus. In 2015, the Conservative campaign platform focuses on balancing the federal budget, lowering taxes, job creation, increasing national security, and strengthening the national economy. The party promises to provide $2.7 billion in tax relief by lowering the tax rate for more than 700,000 small businesses across Canada. We'll check in again as ballots are tallied and the night progresses. Back to you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Donna. Now let's see what's happening at the Liberal campaign headquarters, where reporter Darren Taylor is amongst Sheehan supporters. We'll have Darren in just 1 second. The national numbers have been coming in throughout the evening on the Elections Canada website. Right now, we are seeing that the Liberals are leading in 34 ridings. Darren Taylor is going to be with us in just a minute. He is on Queen Street at our Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan's campaign office. We're going to head to Darren now.
Right, thanks, Jasmine. It's been a long 78-day campaign, and all the campaign teams have worked very hard, but you could argue that the most enthusiastic and pumped-up campaign team has been that of Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan, and they're gathered here at 642 Queen Street East. There was voter apathy, it's safe to say, in early August when this campaign was first called. But by mid-August, Liberal leader Justin Trudeau visited Sault Ste. Marie to support Sheehan in his campaign. He electrified the whole city, it seemed. This auditorium was absolutely packed and electric with excitement, and supporters spilled out onto Queen Street just to get a glimpse of Trudeau and Mr. Sheehan. Now, it's been a very interesting campaign. Incumbent Conservative MP Brian Hayes has stuck to the party line, his party line of lowering taxes across the board as the key to economic prosperity. The NDP and their man here, Skip Morrison, have promised lots of things, including lots and lots of daycare spaces and tax cuts for small businesses across the board, right off the bat. But Sheehan and the Liberals, under Mr. Trudeau, have gone straight to promising borrowing billions of dollars over the next 3 years for infrastructure spending in order to create jobs, as well as trimming the middle-class tax rate and improving access to pensions. Now, while Trudeau's Liberals at this point seem to be the ones to beat federally, the Sault Ste. Marie riding is a very, very close one to call, too close to call right now. We'll keep an eye on things here as the evening progresses. Now, back to you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Darren. Skip Morrison's supporters are gathered at the Grand Gardens on Dennis Street as results roll in tonight. Let's check with reporter Sadie Janes, who is there now.
Thanks, Jasmine. I'm here at Grand Gardens, where NDP candidate Skip Morrison's supporters are gathering, waiting to hear the results of tonight's federal election. Morrison was the first of the local candidates to be nominated for this election campaign at a meeting of New Local Democrats in June. Morrison is an SR Steel Algoma employee and was endorsed by local steelworkers in early September. People are starting to make their way in support of Skip here at Grand Gardens. In terms of past elections, the Sault has traditionally swung between NDP and Liberals in federal elections. Tony Martin was the last New Democrat to hold the riding from 2004 to 2011. We'll keep you updated here at Grand Gardens with what's happening and hopefully talk to Skip and some of his supporters. Back to you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Sadie. Two of the country's party leaders visited Sault Ste. Marie while on the campaign trail. The most recent visit was by Conservative leader Stephen Harper, who addressed a crowd of party supporters at the Water Tower Inn last month. Here's a highlight of his visit.
And our Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper. Conservative welcome, thanks. It's always great to be back in Sault Ste. Marie. I want to thank Andre for getting us started and Brian for that very generous introduction. You know, Brian has been a great addition to our team. There's a lot of different things he's been doing. He is the chairman of the Steel Caucus of the House of Commons, a tireless advocate for Canada's steelmakers generally, and I know he's particularly proud and should be of the substantial investment that we made in partnership with SR Steel right here in Sault Ste. Marie. And of course, also give Brian a big hand for being a stalwart in the struggle to get rid of the wasteful and ineffective long gun registry. Brian Hayes re-elected and Andre Robichaud elected so that the Liberals and NDP can never bring it back. Because we are here because we believe in our party, in our policies, in our people, but above all else, we're here for Canada, proud of its history, confident about our future in our Canada, the best country in the entire world. I know that's something we all believe and we say very easily, but it was not easy. The success of our country, what we enjoy today, our prosperity, our peace, our freedom, these things are no accident. They are the product of the sacrifices and hard work of the generations who have gone before us, of the choices they made, sometimes difficult choices. Choices matter, and there is not a bigger choice, a choice more consequential for Canadians than the choice Canadians will make on October the 19th, which party, which leader will govern them. C'est un choix. It's a choice about which party, which leader, which team has the proven experience to keep Canadians safe and keep our economy strong. And friends, that choice is the choice, the right choice, not to go back, but to keep moving forward with the Conservative Party. Now, friends, since coming to office, our government has had to make choices. Sometimes difficult choices. International markets seem to remind us almost daily that we are living in times, once again, of global economic turbulence, the fall in oil and commodity prices, instability in the Chinese economic and financial markets, the ongoing debt crisis in Europe. But friends, through all of these ups and downs over these years, this country, Canada, has been an island of stability. Has grown, and we learned from Statistics Canada the Canadian economy is growing once again. The economy will grow for the 7th straight year because we have a low-tax, long-term plan for jobs and growth, and we are sticking to our plan. My friends, amidst all of these debt and financial crises, this country, Canada, has the strongest and the most stable banking and financial system in the entire world. That is why why we have by far the lowest debt burden in the G7. You may have read that in spite of some 3 months, some of the more difficult months in this fiscal year, we are already $5 billion in surplus. Way ahead. Way ahead. That's why the Canadian economy has been growing for 6 years, why it will grow again this year, and why since the global financial crisis, this economy has created nearly 1.3 million net new jobs, 1.3 million more people working today than working then, overwhelmingly in full-time, private sector, well-paying jobs, by far the best job creation record in the G7. Action plan. That is why, to encourage growth and employment, we've lowered taxes for individuals, for families, and for job-creating businesses, because we understand that your money belongs to you, not to the bureaucracy in Ottawa. We bring in a tax cut. The other guys jump up, Trudeau and Mulcair, and they go, "You're giving away the taxpayers' money." Can you talk about not getting it? We're giving the money back to the people it belonged to in the first place. That's what we're doing. We've done tax cuts, from income splitting for seniors and family, to the universal child care benefit, from tax-free savings accounts, to now making the home renovation tax credit permanent. C'est pour ça que nous avons maintenant le fardeau fiscal fédéral le plus bas en plus de 50 ans. That is why we now have, at the federal level, the lowest tax burden since John Diefenbaker was Prime Minister, the lowest federal tax burden in over 50 years. That is why we have been out concluding free trade agreements. When we came to office, we've been concluding them across the world, with Europe, with the Americas, with Asia. When we came to office, Canada had trade agreements. In spite of being one of the most open, trade-dependent nations in the world, we had trade agreements with only 5 countries, the least of any major trading country. Today, we have trade deals with 44 countries, and friends, if you look at Canada's free trade access in the world, which is going to be so important for the future of our country, almost 99% of it was created by conservative governments. Our economic action plan, that is why we are building the national infrastructure. In fact, our Conservative government is investing some $80 billion additional in Canada's infrastructure over the next decade in things such as, I got to name these, the Huron Central Railway, the new Algoma Public Health Building, the reconstruction of McNabb Street and South Market Street. Brian, by the way, the International Bridge. Brian has worked very hard on the project to refurbish the International Bridge Plaza. You know, we've done things like this across the country. Our new Building Canada plan is quite simply the longest, largest, most ambitious federal infrastructure investment in the history of this country. We are continuing to implement our economic action plan to create good jobs and to build our economy for the years ahead. We're providing skills training to our workers. We're making affordable and effective investments in sectors key to economic prosperity in the long term, like the announcement I made today with the Association of Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters on creating an advanced manufacturing hub, a world-leading center of excellence right here in this country, in Canada. Let the other guys explain their various carbon tax schemes, their plans to shut down this resource development or that resource development. We Conservatives will stand for responsible environmental regulation that does not come at the expense of jobs and our economy. Let the other guys guys explain, and I can hardly even believe some of this. I wish I was making this stuff up. Let the other guys explain their plans for drug injection sites in your neighborhoods, for legalized marijuana and legalized prostitution, for ending mandatory prison sentences for even the most violent crimes and criminals, and for bringing back the wasteful and ineffective long gun registry. We Conservatives will stand for safe streets and safe communities, for real penalties for violent crime, and we will always put the rights of victims and law-abiding citizens ahead of the welfare of the criminals. Mr. Trudeau explain why, at this point in the history of the world, our security agencies should have their powers weakened and their hands tied, why Canada should pull out of the international military coalition fighting ISIS. We Conservatives will stand up against the very real dangers that threaten the world, and we will do whatever is necessary to protect this country and to protect Canadians. Friends, the privilege of being in government, of governing, means working hard. It means facing the realities of the world, whether you like them or not, and making the best decisions you can, popular or otherwise. It has never been easy. It never will be. But friends, I believe that together we have been building a country that is worth fighting for. Again for your support. I know I've asked many of you before, and some of you I've seen a few times before, but you know, last time we had a fantastic breakthrough in this area. This is an area whose values, whose economic prospects are entirely dependent on having the kind of economic agenda that this party stands for. So friends, let's make sure we get these two gentlemen elected and re-elected. Let's keep this country out of the hands of people who are clearly not ready to run it, and those whose ideas would clearly wreck our economy. Only our Conservative Party is going to keep Canadians safe and is going to keep our economy moving forward. As Conservatives, that is the duty we owe this country, to serve it, to build it, to protect it, to cherish it, because this is, and this must remain, Canada, the best country in the world. I want to thank you.
Results are starting to come in from the Algoma-Manitoulin-Kapuskasing riding. Right now they have NDP candidate Carol Hughes in the lead with 287 votes. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau was also in Sault Ste. Marie recently, and we had footage from his visit as well.
Mr. Trudeau, the man, the next Prime Minister, is here. He's a champion in a boxing ring, he's a champion debater, and he is a champion of all the people of Sault Ste. Marie and Canada. Put your hands together for the next Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Trudeau! Thank you ever so much. I wanted to thank Mr. Trudeau, first of all, for showing up in our community. Isn't that just absolutely wonderful? Yeah! And before I begin, Mr. Trudeau, I just wanted to say, there's a couple people in the audience I just want to acknowledge, of course, our Cabinet Minister, Mr. Rossetti. Round of applause. Chief Dean Sayers from Batchewana, thank you very much. And Mr. Councillor Shoemaker is in the audience somewhere. Just wave or yell. spiritual leader Willard Pine is also here from Garden River. Thank you very much. I'm not too sure if the chief was able to make it. The chief, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be very brief because the man you've been waiting for, and I really appreciate it, it's absolutely amazing, is right here. It's an absolute honor to have the opportunity to run for you. I think that we have the wind in our sail and the sun on our face, and we're going to really make a big, big change here, and all these people are going to help us win. With hope and hard work, we are going to win. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Trudeau!
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, all of you, for coming out. What an incredibly warm welcome. I really, really appreciate all the smiles and the hugs and the enthusiasm. It's been a great campaign so far, right across the country. But seeing the kind of energy that Terry's generating here in the Sioux is just extraordinary. Congratulations, guys. You know, this is a really important campaign. Not only am I ready for it, but I'm determined to win it. But you all know that doesn't happen on our own. We need to make sure that we're all working together. We need to have strong friends and allies like David Orzetti. Thank you so much for all your support, your hard work. Thank you for being here as well. Our provincial cousins are very helpful, but mostly it takes strong team members like Terry Sheehan. Big hand, Terry. Listen, thank you so much. Terry has been a strong community leader, a proud resident of the Sioux for so many years, committed to helping communities get stronger, committed to helping families become more and more successful. This focus we have is understanding that Canada has struggled for the past 10 years with a Prime Minister who not only doesn't get the kind of tone and approach that Canadians want their Prime Minister to have, he has put forward a failed economic plan, and we deserve better. Mr. Harper's failure is based on an error in judgment. He thinks that the best way to grow the economy is to continue to give benefits and advantages to the wealthiest Canadians and hope that they trickle down to the rest of people in jobs. Well, that doesn't work, and we've seen that for 10 years. The Liberal Party has a strong plan to grow the economy by investing in the middle class, because that's what strengthens our economy. We're going to do what neither of our other opponents will do. Neither Mr. Harper nor Mr. Mulcair are willing to do what's necessary, which is ask the wealthiest 1% of Canadians to pay a little more in taxes so that the middle class can actually pay less in taxes. And more money in our pockets is a good thing for growth. We're also going to stop sending government checks to millionaires just because they have kids. The Canada Child Benefit isn't as generous as it needs to be for the people who need it, because it's sending itself to people who don't need it. We're giving a more generous child benefit to the Canadians who actually need it, those in the middle class and those working hard to join the middle class, and it's going to lift 315,000 kids out of poverty right away, and that's something that we need to do. But in general, this election is about change. It's about the kind of future we want to build. On voit régulièrement que M. Harper ne représente pas nos valeurs, ne représente pas notre approche, ne représente pas le genre de pays que nous voulons être, le genre de pays que nous devons être pour être à la hauteur des attentes de nos rêves, des attentes de nos enfants. We have an awful lot of work to do, but you know what? We're going to do it. I see this crowd here today and I am inspired. Not just because you're here and you support the Liberal Party and Sheehan and Terry Sheehan, although that's great, but also because by being here today, you're showing that you are committed to a better country. You are committed to stepping up and making sure that better is always possible. Mr. Harper has spent millions of dollars over the past years trying to tear us down. He's going to spend millions more trying to tell Canadians that better just isn't possible, that we should stay with the same failed approach. Well, tell you what, my friends, you and I, we're going to prove him wrong. We're going to prove that here in Canada, better is always possible. Here in the Sioux, better is definitely possible. And we're going to show him that in Canada, When Canadians want change, all the money in the world can't stop that. We're going to bring real change to Ottawa. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Sault Ste. Marie. You are the first party leader to visit Sault Ste. Marie. You have a plan for change. What do you plan on doing for small northern Ontario communities such as ours?
Well, the first thing is we need to make sure that we have a strong voice for the Sioux in Ottawa and not what we've had over the past few years, which is Mr. Harper's voice here in the Sioux from your local MP. That's why I'm so proud to be here with Terry, who's going to be such a great voice for the Sioux. We need to make sure that there's a real chance, a real possibility for growth by investing and strengthening the middle class. We're going to give more generous child benefits to the families who need it. We're going to give a tax break to middle-class families by asking the wealthiest 1% to pay more. And we're going to invest, I just announced today, hundreds of millions of dollars in our forestry, our mines, and our resources so that we can be cutting-edge and competitive on the world stage. These are the kinds of things we need to do, and that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Excellent. Thank you very much for stopping to talk to us.
What a pleasure to be here. The Sioux matters, and it's a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Great to see you guys. Hello, sir. Good to see you. Thank you.
We have some results coming in for Sault Ste. Marie now. Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan has 64 votes, Conservative candidate Brian Hayes has 33, and NDP candidate Skip Morrison has 32. As numbers continue to come in tonight, we'll be updating with live results on this page right below our video. 4 of the local candidates participated in a discussion panel hosted by the Chamber of Commerce, Local 2, Shaw TV, Sioux College, and Algoma University. One of the questions posed to the candidates from the panel was regarding the unemployment rate here in Sault Ste. Marie. Here's what each of them had to say.
First question from the panel, please.
In August 2015, Sault Ste. Marie had an unemployment rate of 12.2%. compared to 5.7% in August 2014. What will you do to lower the unemployment rate in Sault Ste. Marie and ensure the unemployment rate consistently remains stable?
Mr. Morrison?
Stability is a difficult thing to promise, but what we have promised is to reinvigorate the small business, which is the driver of most of the jobs in this country. It's the driver of 80% of the jobs. We've already pledged to lower the small business tax rate from 11% to 9%, and this is going to generate jobs. These are the tax saving is where small businesses are going to improve their bottom line and be able to expand. We have always advocated is correcting and staying vigilant on dumping of steel, which Mr. Hayes seems to forget that 500 jobs were lost, even though he was touting that he was advocating new markets for Tenaris. 500 people were laid off there. There's some unemployment that could have been prevented. After 4 years, and watching the dumping that took place for 4 years, then the Conservatives decided to launch an international trade tribunal dispute and did in fact find that there was dumping. So if we stay vigilant on unfair trade practices and if we reinvigorate small businesses and increase their bottom line, we'll be able to improve the employment situation. The Conservatives have also been responsible for massive layoffs in the federal public service. So border service jobs, Canada Post, Department of Fisheries and Oceans. These are good jobs. These are not luxury positions like a candy factory that's been closed, that's been supported by a socialist government, which they try to say. We're saying that these are good, essential jobs that the Harper government has deemed to be unnecessary. So those are also good science-related jobs that young people can aspire to, or they could have aspired to prior to Mr. Hayes' tenure.
Flanagan?
Thank you. The Green Party and the NDP and the Liberals all support that small business is very, very important, but we do plan on going about it in a different way. Our small businesses need the red tape to be cut so that they can make decisions that are going to be better for their business. And the Green Party has a plan called Think Small First, and that means that all levels of government need to look at the regulations that they have in place and what is impeding small businesses from growing. We see opportunities for clean tech, we see opportunities for R&D, and in order to fund these things and get venture capital available to small businesses and entrepreneurs, we would create the money from increasing the corporate tax rate from 15% up to 19%. We would get rid of tax havens and money that's not not being spent on waste. Sorry about that. The investing in having our people work on our infrastructure, our bridges, our roads, retrofitting our hospitals, universities, and schools for energy efficiency, for retrofitting our homes. Right there, we increase our housing stock, we decrease our carbon footprint, we put the trades to work, and those are all local jobs. They cannot be outsourced to India or China. Those are important things that would keep people working in our community and give people opportunities. Expanding Canada Post, not only is this an issue for people who have accessibility issues, it means that more people have to carry the mail.
Thank you. Mr. Sheehan?
Thank you very much for that very important question. Let me begin by saying, first of all, that rate is unacceptable, the 12+%. First thing that we need to do is address, for those people, because we've got to talk about those people first, is address the problems in EI, the wait times, expedite the process to get money to their families, so these people that are unemployed, can find the assistance that they need. On the plan for jobs, the Liberals have the best plan. We're going to kickstart this economy by investing in infrastructure. We're making historical, investments in infrastructure, which will spur on construction activity, because we're going to build roads, bridges, buildings, social infrastructure like senior facilities and affordable housing. That is going to be kickstarting the economy. And also what that does, it also creates a business for our local steel plant. Our steel plant has steel industry makes steel for those kinds of construction jobs and for process in asphalt making. So our plan is good for the local economy as well. We also have to take a look at what's happening across Canada, because in the StatsCan report, there are 10 sectors right across Canada that are failing. So we have a plan to invest in clean green energy and clean green jobs. Mr. Trudeau was here announcing $200 million for sector-specific strategies and $100 million, to research towards that places in this place could use. So we bring together the universities, the college, the scientists, we unmuzzle them, the entrepreneurs, the business, and we get together with all the community leaders and we come up with a plan, and that's what I've proposed. I will do it through leadership. We come out through a plan for also diversifying this economy and our long-term commitment to jobs. And that is how we can get ourselves moving once again. It's through leadership, pulling people together, and finding these tools that the Liberal government has. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Hayes?
For starters, we won't raise taxes. I'll make that perfectly clear. Since we formed government in 2006, we've reduced the corporate tax rate from 22% to 15%. We've reduced the small business tax rate from 12% to 11%, and we will reduce that to 9% moving forward. We understand very, very clearly that our business community does not need higher taxes. Secondly, we'll continue to do exactly what we're doing specific to promoting trade agreements. Our government has been involved in signing 30 trade agreements. 1 in 5 jobs in Canada are a direct result of trade agreements. As I mentioned earlier, the Liberal government in their 14 years signed 3 trade agreements. The NDP have supported but 1 trade agreement. We're going to continue with our targeted investments. One of those targeted investments I can point out to is the $30 million interest-free loan that we provided to SR Algoma Steel. That was a targeted investment for our manufacturing sector to promote manufacturing jobs in Northern Ontario. We will continue with our training programs. We'll continue to train our youth. As a matter of fact, specific to youth, we will provide $65 million over the next 4 years to better align the curricula of our educational institutions with the needs of employers, because the reality is, in certain skilled trades, there is in fact a jobs shortage. And I've conducted a number of roundtable discussions with our local employers, and we understand that. That's why we're also creating $100 million a year towards apprenticeship loans to assist our apprentices. We're providing tax credits to our businesses that actually hire apprentices. Furthermore, with respect to infrastructure, yes, indeed, infrastructure is a job creator. And that's why our Conservative government here in Sault Ste. Marie has contributed $2.1 million towards phase 2 of the development of the Port of Algoma, and recently announced multiple millions of dollars in infrastructure investment right here in Sault Ste. Marie.
Numbers are continuing to come in here in Sault Ste. Marie. There are 3 frontrunners. Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan has 1,322 votes. Conservative candidate Brian Hayes has 786. And NDP candidate Skip Morrison has 612. When the candidates met at the panel, another question posed to them was their stance on how Indigenous issues should be handled by the government. Let's hear their responses.
In June of this year, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission tabled a list of recommendations to address the legacy of residential schools and to improve Canadian First Nation relations. What should Canada do with regards to Indigenous issues, such as improving conditions on reserves, respecting treaty rights, and addressing the high rates of missing and murdered Aboriginal women?
Could you start this one for us, please, Ms. Flanagan?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission and their 93 recommendations need to be implemented right away. It's such a tragedy what we have done to our First Nations hosts who welcomed us to this Turtle Island all those years ago. And we've done nothing but tried to colonize them, and it's been very damaging. The residential schools have caused serious hurt and damage to their culture. It's a form of genocide, cultural genocide, and we all need to acknowledge that, and it'll take a long time to heal that. We believe that our First Nations, our Anishinaabe people here, are entitled to self-governance, and we would recognize them as a government and deal with them government to government. We need to help them identify what would work for them and what they need, so that we can support them to making the changes that will bring them into restoring their culture and their identity. We also need, excuse me, to have a commission for figuring out what's happening with our missing and murdered women. This is a horrible thing. I can't imagine that anyone would not want to know what is going on and how it's happening, why it's happening, and what can we do to prevent it. This has been going on far too long. Improving conditions on the reserves. It's deplorable that they have third world conditions. They have drinking water that is not potable. That's inexcusable here in Canada. Their housing needs to be redressed. We have to find a way to make amends and be supportive so that and build them up. We need to support their education. The money that has been withheld from their education and capped for the last many years, that's inexcusable. They need to be able to rediscover and grow their culture.
Next is Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you very much for the question. I had the opportunity to listen to Chief Justice Sinclair at Algoma University as he presented the Truth and Reconciliation findings and his experience. Very, very, very moving. That's why I'm pleased to say the Liberals have a significant, a great plan as it relates to that. We're calling for the implementation of all of the recommendations. They are necessary. It's very important. And on the First Nations issues, we have a great plan that, we're going to begin a conversation, a nation-to-nation conversation, and, let the First Nations help us, help them, because they understand it. They get it, and we need to be there for them. We're calling a public inquiry into the missing and murdered Aboriginal women and girls. We were right out of the gate with that one. It's so important. There's been callous remarks made in the media, and I won't go over them because it's a terrible thing that's happened. I had an opportunity years ago to be at the Roberta Bonder building when a woman came walking through across Canada about the Highway of Tears up in BC. That was also very moving. I've had lots of experience with the First Nations over and over again, just not at election time. And I tell you, it's a great community to learn from. Not only do I respect them, I admire them, and we owe it to them. The Liberal government also has announced an economic plan and also an education plan for First Nations, which is $515 million for K-12 education, rising to $750 million per year by the end of the first mandate, and investing $500 million for the First Nation education infrastructure and $50 million additional money for First Nation post-education schooling. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hayes.
Thank you very much. Our government is actually currently reviewing the report. It's a very extensive report. There were a number of recommendations, and obviously we want to analyze it and fully cost the recommendations and fully consider an implementation plan, and I think that's the right way to go about it. But with respect to protecting Aboriginal women and girls, our government has taken important steps. As a matter of fact, in Economic Action Plan 2015, we've invested an additional $25 million over 5 years as part of an action plan to address family violence and crimes against Aboriginal women and girls. And that plan was released in September of 2014. This 5-year action plan outlines concrete actions to prevent violence, support Aboriginal victims, and protect Aboriginal women and girls from violence. On top of that, it was our government, we demonstrated strong support for matrimonial real property rights by passing the Family, Homes on Reserves and Matrimonial Interests or Rights Act and supporting the establishment of the Centre of Excellence for Matrimonial Real Property. This was to give First Nation women the same matrimonial rights as off-reserve individuals. And incidentally, that was a piece of legislation that was not supported by the New Democratic Party. We have partnered with First Nations, and it takes a partnership. It takes a partnership with the provinces, it takes a partnership with the First Nations, it takes a partnership with service deliverers. Our government has been at the table with record investments for our First Nations. We have contributed millions of dollars with respect to new wastewater management systems, with respect to new homes on reserves, with respect to health care for our First Nations partners, and we will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Mr. Morrison.
Skip Morrison, Indigenous Bawating and Dunjaba, Shaganasha, Nini and Dao. I'm proud to have been part of a presentation to Chief Sayers and to Chief Sayers. The NDP will build a nation-to-nation relationship with the Anishinaabe. We will not call immediately a national inquiry into the issue of the 1,200 missing and murdered women within 100 days. We will create a cabinet-level committee chaired by Tom Mulcair as Prime Minister to ensure that all government decisions respect treaty rights, inherent rights, and Canada's international obligations. We will fix our nation's broken treaty process and deal with unresolved land claims. We will implement the principles of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. We will reverse the damage done by Stephen Harper to the environmental assessment review process, and we will enact a national water strategy to defend water as a public resource, declare it to be a human right, and we will eliminate all boil water advisories on First Nation communities. We will take action in consultation on all of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendations on a priority basis, and we will fully repeal Bill C-51, which we all know, and the politically astute First Nations leaders that I've spoken to recognize this to be the first step in circumventing the rule of law and disrupting legal and lawful and rightful protest to environmental degradation. And Mr. Hayes, I don't know how you sit here and say that you've done anything for First Nations women when your leader has said the issue of murdered and missing Aboriginal women is not high on his radar.
Polls are now closed across the country. We have continuous updates on screen regarding our local and national poll numbers as they come in. Elsewhere in our region, in the Algoma-Manitoulin-Kapuskasing riding, NDP candidate Carol Hughes is running for re-election. Hughes was first elected in 2008. She faces Conservative challengers Andre Robichaud, Liberal Heather Wilson, and the Green Party's Calvin Orrick. Throughout this campaign, Hughes has lashed out against Conservative policies such as Bill C-51, while Conservative candidate Robichaud has said that Hughes and the NDP would bring back the unpopular long gun registry. Let's check in again with our reporters on the scene. Let's go to Sadie James, where she is with the NDP gathering for Skip Morrison supporters.
Thank you, Jasmine. I'm here with Jim Agnew, president of the Federal Riding Association for the NDP. Jim, what made you decide to support NDP?
Oh, I've been an NDP supporter since 1969. So it's their values, you know, the social democracy. That's what drives me to it. They're a good party for the working person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and how well do you think that Skip ran his campaign?
Skip ran an excellent campaign. He a hard worker. He had a good team. He's got the ability to motivate people to get out there, and the involvement was very, very high.
Okay, and do you think Mulcair not coming here had any effect on his campaign?
That's a hard one to tell. I don't know. We definitely didn't get that kind of feedback. We had a concern, but we didn't get the feedback of people saying that it affected their opinion. It wasn't there.
Okay, and so why did you choose to come out in person tonight to support Skip?
Oh, I've been involved, I think, 65 of the 79 days of the campaign. So my spouse tells me that I don't have a life. But he's a good candidate. He motivates people.
Any other specifics to his campaign that impressed you?
His knowledge of issues. He's very, very knowledgeable in issues, and very, very sincere in his beliefs.
Thank you so much, Jim. Back to you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Sadie. That's Sadie James reporting from the Grand Gardens. Let's check in next with Darren Taylor, who is on scene at Terry Sheehan's campaign office.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Excitement is slowly but surely starting to build here at Terry Sheehan's Liberal campaign headquarters. Nationally, federally, as we know, one national news organization has declared the Federal Liberal Party of Canada under Justin Trudeau to be the winners in this 2015 federal election, displacing Stephen Harper's Conservatives. Stephen Harper's Conservatives are projected to be the official opposition right here in Sault Ste. Marie at Terry Sheehan's Liberal campaign headquarters. Like I say, excitement is slowly starting to build. That same national media organization has declared Terry Sheehan to be the winner in this Sault Ste. Marie riding, displacing Conservative candidate Brian Hayes. Excitement is slowly but surely starting to build. Sheehan was supposed to be here at the campaign headquarters about half an hour, 35 minutes ago, but hasn't surfaced yet. I'm sure he will be soon as excitement starts to build. The campaign workers are in the background looking at national media results. If I look off to my left here, there's only a handful of polls have reported here in Sault Ste. Marie, but they all show Terry Sheehan in a clear lead. If that momentum keeps, well, certainly that projection of Terry Sheehan being the successful candidate will keep, and he will be Sault Ste. Marie's new candidate in Ottawa. Sault Ste. Marie's new member in Ottawa in the House of Commons, a Liberal MP for Sault Ste. Marie, replacing Brian Hayes after 4 years. So once again, national media has declared the federal Liberals under Justin Trudeau to be the new the winners in this federal 2015 election campaign, and Terry Sheehan has been declared by one national news organization to be the winner here in the Sault Ste. Marie riding. Only a handful of polls have been reported in so far, but it looks like Sheehan is on his way to victory, and excitement is slowly but surely building here, and we will keep an eye on the results here as they keep coming in. Back to you, Jasmine.
Thanks, Darren. Now let's head to Donna Hopper, who is with Conservative candidate Brian Hayes at his campaign headquarters.
Past president of the Riding Association. Tell me, Josh, how you felt Brian performed during his campaign.
I think Brian did an excellent job during this campaign. He was out the doors every day. He presented the plan for fiscal responsibility, no debt, not carrying a surplus, as well as at the same time, basically our tax plan for families. So I think Brian communicated that well. If you looked at the even the polls from the chamber debate, I think we see Brian did a fantastic job, and we can all be proud of him.
What do you think, as a candidate, he brought? What was the most important thing he brought to Sault Ste. Marie and Northern Ontario?
To Northern Ontario, he brought a seat at the table in the Harper government, as well as Brian was a great advocate for numerous projects. His private member's bill against women's domestic violence got unanimous consent. He lobbied hard when he was in Ottawa for different projects on behalf of all constituents, so that's something we can be proud of.
And for you personally, what is it about the Conservative government that draws you to it?
Fiscal responsibility. I don't believe in carrying debt. I believe on I carry a budget in my own household, and I think we should live within our means as Canadians.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Back to you, Jasmine.
More numbers are coming in right now. We have Terry Sheehan in the lead with 5,642 votes, followed by Conservative candidate Brian Hayes with 3,720, and NDP candidate Skip Morrison with 2,405. Village Media's reporter Michael Purvis recently sat down with Algoma University political science professor Trevor Cheer to discuss how strategic voting works and how it could play a role in today's election.
With the federal election just days away, we asked political science professor Trevor Cheer to join us in the Local 2 studio to help us understand why so many people are talking about strategic voting.
Trevor, the reason we asked you in was to talk about strategic voting. You know, it seems there's several groups actually trying to solicit people, trying to get them to use their votes strategically. Mm-hmm. Why would that be happening right now?
Well, strategic voting, first, just to explain it briefly, is when a voter has perhaps their first choice that they want to vote for based on either the candidate or the platform or the principles that that party is expressing in their policy choices, but they don't think that that party necessarily has a good chance of winning either the local race or the national election. And so they vote in order to avoid their least favorite party or leader winning either the local race or the national election. So they'll side with, in their opinion, perhaps their second favorite party or the one that they think has the best chance at defeating their least favorite party, and a party that they can live with. It happens more, not everybody votes this way, but the studies have shown about 20% of Canadians say that they voted strategically regularly, and it can really sway a vote that is really close. And the national vote seems very close, the national race, and the local race here in Sault Ste. Marie is very close.
It's very close. And it feels like almost we're seeing people trying to use maybe social media to harness that strategic voting. Is there a sense that people maybe did this on their own before, and now there's sort of an effort out there to jump on that and try to use it?
Yeah, I've seen in the last 5 years or so pretty important movements on social media and even paid advertising for people trying to get their own party supporters to vote strategically. I was in Alberta for the second last election, provincial Alberta election.
Right.
And usual Liberal supporters who were fearful of a Wild Rose government tried to convince other Liberal supporters to vote for their usual arch rivals, the Progressive Conservatives, the Redford Conservatives, because they said, okay, well, at least we know the Redford Conservatives. We are trepidatious about a further right-wing Wild Rose Party, and so part of the Liberal support basis was trying to use social media to convince Liberals to not vote Liberal at one time. So there is precedent, that's for sure. And it especially occurs when the policy options are not so different. You don't usually see strategic voting happening when a habitual supporter of one party jumps all the way across the ideological spectrum to vote for a completely different type of party.
So is it, I mean, when you've got a riding like Sault Ste. Marie and looking at some of the poll numbers that seem to have come out in the last couple of weeks, it seems like it's really a three-way race. I mean, is that, when you talk about strategic voting, does that work here? Is that in play?
Absolutely. It's very close here. Has been since locally, it's been close since the beginning of the race. That's the sense. If you look nationally, you could see some strategic voting really change things in ridings like Sault Ste. Marie that are swing ridings that are up for grabs. And the reason for that, at the beginning of this whole national election, polls suggested that 35% of Canadians would vote for the Conservative Party, meaning that the other 65% wanted a different party to win the election and form government. Now, unfortunately for those parties, that 65% is divided up between the Greens, the NDP, and the Liberals. And so a lot of analysts speculated that near the end of the campaign, when there would be a noticeable front runner among the alternatives to the existing government, a portion of the third place party would back the second place party. Kind of the old adage goes, hold your nose, in other words, not vote for your ideal choice and vote for your second best option.
What is it about our system that makes this happen? Is there something specific to the way we elect people to Parliament that makes this
absolutely. We work under it's called the first past the post or single member plurality system. And what that means is that in our territorial ridings, we can only vote for one representative in the House of Commons, and that you don't need a majority to win that seat, you just need a plurality, which means more votes than any of the other candidates. That goes for local competitions and the national competition. So it's not rare to win a seat with only 35% of the vote and to win, to form government with only 35 to 40% of the vote. And so critics of this system argue that there's a real disconnect between the percentage of people, individual Canadians who vote for their favorite parties, that's called a percentage of the popular vote,
right,
and how it correlates to the actual number of seats that each of the parties get. For instance, in 1979, when Joe Clark was Prime Minister for about just over half a year, he actually received fewer votes than Pierre Trudeau did, yet formed the government.
No, and we've got leaders this time around kind of saying that, you know what, if we get in, we're going to change that. Is that is that going to make things better?
I'm skeptical about that in the first place. To change to, say, a proportional representation system, there's an argument about what would need to take place. First of all, you'd need to have a governing party in place that had the political will to change the rules of a game that they had just won. They would have just formed government and received a mandate to govern according to the rules that we have now. So you'd have to ask, why would they want to change the rules of a game that they've just succeeded at, right? You could speculate that you could get a prime minister with the political will to do it, I would say near the end of a mandate. We saw Chrétien leave, in the last year of his government, he changed the rules about financing.
Village Media is calling the election for Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan. Over 33% of the votes have been counted, and he is in the lead with over 7,700 votes. Darren Taylor is live at Terry Sheehan's campaign headquarters. Let's head to him now.
Here we are at a very excited Liberal Party campaign headquarters with local Sault Ste. Marie local Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan, giving and receiving a lot of hugs here, as you can see. Here we are.
Hey, number one man right here.
Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan has been declared the winner here in the Sault Ste. Marie riding. Terry, congratulations. The Liberals, federal Liberals, have been declared the winners here nationally. Your comments?
Well, it's a great feeling right now, and we're anxiously waiting for the remainder of the polls to close. We're trending well. It feels good, and they've declared me the winner, and I appreciate that. And it's a great feeling. I couldn't have done it without all these people here. It's been a real team effort. The community has been outstanding. It's been an honor, a privilege, and a humbling experience
We really knocked on doors. Everyone says they knock on doors. We hit every neighborhood. We were everywhere. And, people spoke. They want change. They want growth. And we presented that to them, and they embraced it.
What do you think really swung the election? Obviously, Mr. Trudeau's visit, that was huge, but there's a lot more to it than just that. The very fact that the Canadians have seemed to embrace the fact of borrowing billions of dollars right off the bat to create jobs, that sort of screams out that Canadians want change at any price. Your comment to that?
Well, basically what our plan was different is it was a very responsible plan. It's borrowing a bit of money while interest rates were low, but being able to balance the books during our term and creating jobs and growth. With the unemployment rate skyrocketing here in Sault Ste. Marie, but all across Canada, it is so high. People's priority was that. The most expensive thing into a society is an unemployed person, and it's bad out there, and I heard it everywhere. So that plan was perfect. It made a lot of sense. The tax cuts for the middle class, looking after our seniors, the child benefit program is what people were looking for. People had lost hope. They were feeling a bit of despair, and Trudeau's message was all about hope and opportunity, and that's what we're providing.
Long-time, well-known school board trustee, long-time, well-known city councilor for Ward 2.
Yep.
Obviously, with great experience, and you're going to be a member of the government.
Absolutely.
But in your words, what do you bring to the table?
I bring hard work. I bring some experience, but I also bring fresh new ideas, innovation, and one of the things I'm really good at is collaborating. And I'll be able to collaborate with all the political figures in the area and the riding, the First Nations, the mayors, the reeves, the councillors, the business people, the community activists. There's a lot of work to be done, and tomorrow we start.
Are you going to be open, accessible, not scripted?
Absolutely. Always open and accessible. You guys know that. I pride myself on that. And one of the things I've been saying is that I will be Sault Ste. Marie's voice in Ottawa, not Ottawa's voice in Sault Ste. Marie.
One last question. Anything to say to your challengers tonight, to your fellow candidates?
Absolutely. They ran excellent campaigns. They worked very hard. Congratulations to them and their teams. It was great. I think we all learned from each other, and again, it was an honor and privilege sitting at the table with them and campaigning in this community with them.
All right, then. Well, Terry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Just been speaking to victorious Liberal candidate Sault Ste. Marie, Terry Sheehan.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Victorious candidate for Sault Ste. Marie, Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan. And the Liberals have been declared the winners nationwide. Exciting night here in Sault Ste. Marie for sure. Change in government, change in MP. Now back to you, Jasmine.
Thank you, Darren. We will have more live updates from the other local candidates as they become available. Why is voting so important? That was the question posed to Saultites on the streets last week in anticipation of today. Here's what they had to say.
Well, I think that it's not just this election, any election. I'm a firm believer in putting your opinion in, and if you want some change, well, you have that ability, but you have to put in the effort, and that means to go vote. There are some places in the world that they would love to have that opportunity, and they don't. So we shouldn't take that for granted. We should be thankful that we have that ability, and so we should do it.
Every election is really important to go out there and vote. This one's the closest one in my lifetime, and everybody should definitely get out and exercise your right.
Well, not only as a woman it's important to vote because other women had to fight so hard to get that right. And other than that, I don't agree with what the Conservative Party has done with Canada right now.
Well, I think we have a lot of change that needs to be made, and I think it's important that everybody puts their heart and soul into making the right decision.
Because everybody's voice will be heard, and hopefully you can make a change if you don't believe in the way the government's being run at the moment.
I think it's important to vote because a lot of the time when people actually think, oh, my vote isn't a big deal, if you look at the whole scale, it is a big deal.
I think it's important to vote in every election because if you don't,
You have no rights to complain.
We are now going to head to Conservative candidate Brian Hayes' campaign headquarters, where we're live on the scene.
And
all right, thanks. He's going to give a speech.
This has been a heck of a ride. I am one of 4,200 members of Parliament in the history of Canada, and I have had the honor for the past 4.5 years to serve Sault Ste. Marie. I have served them well. I have served them with dignity. I have served them with honor. I have earned the respect of my colleagues, and I don't take this personally at all, and nor should any of you. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart, all my volunteers. You guys have been here for me, not necessarily only for the Prime Minister, for the Conservative Party. I know many of you have been here for me, and I want to let you know how much I appreciate your support. This has been a thrill for my family, for my boys, for my wife. This has just been incredible, and I am very proud of what I've done for Sault Ste. Marie, very proud for what I've done for Canada, and I do want to wish the very best to Terry Sheehan. You know, one time I said in my life, I'd like everybody to have the opportunity to actually be a member of Parliament. And now Terry Sheehan gets that opportunity to be a member of Parliament, to serve Sault Ste. Marie. And I hope he serves us well. And you guys don't worry about me. This is a door closed, but there's another door open, and I'm very comfortable with what's happened. I know that I have served Sault Ste. Marie incredibly well. I worked my ass off for the city. And again, I don't take this personally. There's a liberal wave for whatever reason, and we'll take it as it is. And from the bottom of my heart, everybody, thank you. I love you. This has been a great ride, and I don't think we're done yet. So we'll see what happens.
The last week when we spoke. What went wrong this last week?
I have no idea.
If you were just joining us, Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan, and he's a longtime city councillor here in Sault Ste. Marie, but he is now our new MP. We are going to head down to Terry Sheehan's office right now, where he is giving his speech.
I will be your voice in Ottawa, guaranteed.
Hard work and hope. You know, we got out there and we did it the old-fashioned way. We worked really hard. We had a good platform, which was embraced by the people. We offered an alternative. We talked about jobs.
There were many memorable moments throughout this 78-day election campaign. Here are some of the most pivotal moments of note.
I met with His Excellency the Governor General, and he has agreed to my request that Parliament be dissolved.
Mr. Harper has failed Canadians by continuing to give tax breaks to the wealthiest and not understanding that we need to grow the economy by helping the middle class and those working hard to join it. That's what I'm bringing to this campaign, and that's what makes me so excited.
Canadians have a clear choice. 4 more years of Mr. Harper and the Conservatives, or my plan for change.
In the case of Justin, expectations have probably never been lower for a leader going to a debate. If he comes on stage with his pants on, he'll probably exceed expectations.
I think Stephen Harper and the Conservatives have shown a consistent distancing from LGBTQ rights.
Happy Pride! That's why they want their
CPP payroll tax increase, for example, the Justin Wynne, Kathleen Trudeau tax hike.
We are not going to make political promises of balancing the budgets when we know that we are right now in deficit and we are going to need to grow our way out of it.
But he'll about run he says, a modest deficit, a tiny deficit, so small you can hardly see the deficit.
We are going to mark a change from past practice of deficit spending that is left to future generations to clear up, and on that, Mr. Trudeau seems to have the same approach as Mr. Harper.
You know, the first thing that crossed our mind was, remembering our own son Ben at that age, running around like that.
This morning we see a little boy getting picked up on a beach. As a dad and a grandfather, it's just unbearable that we're doing nothing.
Canada, over the past years, has failed to be the country that we like to imagine it to be. You don't get to suddenly discover compassion in the middle of an election campaign.
We will help refugees. We will also protect Canadians on security, and we are committed to doing both of these things. When someone joins the Canadian family, there are times in our open, tolerant, pluralistic society that as part of our interactions with each other, we reveal our identity through revealing our face.
It is continuing with the politics of division and even fear, and that is not worthy of a country as diverse and extraordinary as Canada.
I'm not about the politics of fear and division. Mr. Harper is going to always go after that. He talks about old stock Canadians. That's a code word. He knows what he's doing when he does that.
I think that's something that most new and existing and old stock Canadians agree with.
I was making the point because it had been alleged that the government had removed health care services for immigrants.
We've seen over the past years with this government is an approach that has been secretive, non-transparent, that hasn't let Canadians know what it is negotiating and how it is negotiating.
I'm very pleased to announce today that Canada is joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership as a founding partner of this landmark agreement.
Stephen Harper went into those negotiations 2 weeks away from a federal general election in an incredibly feeble position. Everyone around that table knew it, and they played him like a chump.
The Ford brothers should have no place on a national campaign stage, much less hosting a prime minister at an event this weekend. That's just completely irresponsible.
You are governing and campaigning as the law and order guy, yet you brought up Rob Ford, the crack-smoking former mayor of Toronto, Doug Ford, who's admitted to smoking marijuana. Doug Ford's organizing a rally for you Saturday. So what's up with that?
I think our position on these issues is very well known, and the support we've had from those individuals for our party is long-standing.
When this inappropriate email came to light, we took immediate action, and Mr. Gagné acknowledged took responsibility for his actions and stepped away from the campaign.
Liberal candidate Terry Sheehan is our new MP here for Sault Ste. Marie. Thank you for joining us for our live 2015 federal election coverage tonight. It has been our pleasure to update you throughout the evening. Reporting for Local 2, I'm Jasmine Rowley.